Vladimir Guerrero Jr. wants to play in Boston, but do the Boston Red Sox really want him? More on today's Locked on Red Sox.
You are Locked on Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked on Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Hurlbut, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part, it's free, so you really have nothing to lose but to continue to check it out and share it with your family and friends, because Locked On is your team every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. I will be telling you a little bit more about our friends at Game Time later on today's show, but the perhaps biggest Red Sox news that's been buzzing around the last couple days is this thought that Vlad Guerrero Jr. wants to play in Boston. We're going to be discussing that today. There are a lot of layers to this to break down, so I'm going to be breaking down a lot of those layers for you, as well as talking about the Nolan Arenado potential trade situation. Trevor Story did come out and speak on that. And also the Red Sox outfield future, with Alex Verdugo's name buzzing around and gaining interest from a few teams now in the last few days of this offseason. So while we are anxiously awaiting spring training and pitchers and catchers reporting, which, by the way, is very close now, just a little bit over a month away. And happy Fenway Fest week 2. For those of you who are attending on Saturday, be sure to say hi to me if you see me there. I cannot wait to interact with other Red Sox fans and be able to interact with some Red Sox players and coaches as well, and former Red Sox legends. It should be a great day at the ballpark, albeit cold. It'll still be really fun. So looking forward to that as a great way to get fans excited for baseball season. And while we think about the 2025 season and what the Red Sox have the potential to accomplish, it's also never a bad idea to also continue to think about the future, like the Red Sox have been doing over the last few off seasons. And part of the piece of that future puzzle could be first baseman Vlad Guerrero Jr., who actually came out and said that he would love to play in Boston, according to multiple sources in the industry. Now, Vlad Guerrero Jr. would be a great addition to the Boston Red Sox lineup. Not only is he a right-handed bat, and the Red Sox need some more right-handed power in their lineup, but he's also so accomplished in his career so far. 4-time All-Star, Home Run Derby champion, Gold Glover, 2-time Silver Slugger, and All-Star MVP. So he has had a variety of accolades that he could bring with him to Boston to just, if anything, carry over in terms of being a guy who can represent success on the Boston Red Sox, be a guy who the young guys can say, I want to achieve what he achieved. And it would hopefully motivate some of the younger guys in that locker room to continue to get better every day. And also his 2024 season was solid. 30 home run season with a batting average of .323, over 616 at-bats. He drove in 103 runs and had an on-base percentage of .396 with a slugging percentage of .544. So he definitely had a far cry from a bad season in 2024. So those numbers are eye-popping, and it's hard to argue that that wouldn't help the Boston Red Sox. Now, there are some obstacles to this, one being, do the Boston Red Sox really want him? Because what pattern have the Red Sox shown us over the last few years that indicates they are willing to spend that kind of money on a player? Because Vlad has 1 year left on his contract with the Blue Jays. And now is the time when they need to try to work out an extension with him, which they are going to try and do. I am hearing that the Blue Jays are very much prioritizing trying to get that done. But it has been said also that if Vlad and the Blue Jays don't reach an agreement on a contract extension by spring training, then he will plan to enter free agency come next winter. Now, if I were the Blue Jays and we don't reach an agreement on an extension, I'd be trying to trade him so they can at least get something in return for him when he's in his contract year, which is pretty common for a lot of teams to do. If there's a player in a contract year and they're not confident that they can retain that player, they trade that player so that they can get a good return while they still have the option to do that. So if I'm the Blue Jays, I'm trying to trade him. If I'm the Red Sox, I'm not making that trade because it will involve a steep price. Not only would it likely involve a major league player, but also some high level prospect talent. And the Red Sox did give up high level prospect talent when they got Garrett Crochet. So I'm not really into spending big on prospects for a guy like Vlad when he could be available in free agency and the Red Sox could just throw money at him and bring him to Boston. I have no doubt about the fact that he would want to play here based on especially what I talked about a few weeks ago on the show, which was his Instagram activity with liking a post and deleting it and commenting and all that and deleting the comment that kind of indicated that he would like playing in Boston. So I'm sure that's probably true, but on the flip side of that, would the Red Sox really be willing to commit to a player like that? Because they haven't shown from their spending habits lately that they are willing to do that. Now, another thing to consider here too is why did this leak? Why did this information come out that says that Vladdy would love to play in Boston? And why is the Red Sox front office okay with that being something that gets released to the public? My guess would be, and I hope this isn't the case, but it really feels to me like the Red Sox will use this as an excuse to not sign a guy like Alex Bregman this offseason because they'll say, well, we don't need Bregman. We can just make do with what we have for a year because we're confident in our young guys to show some improvement. We're confident in Trevor Story having a bounce back season where he's healthy. And we can make do with what we have. So we don't need to spend big money on Alex Bregman because then we have that money that we can offer to Vlad in free agency next year. Now, I totally 100% know that the Boston Red Sox, again, are the Boston Red Sox, one of the richest organizations in the sport. So they could afford to bring in Alex Bregman now and bring in Vlad in free agency next year. They very well could do both. But the question is, will they? And I really feel like the answer to that is a hard no because the Red Sox, again, have not shown that kind of urgency. So theoretically, in a perfect world, they would sign Alex Bregman to a free agent contract now, and then they would sign Vlad in free agency next year. But then you have to think about the other factor too in this, which is Triston Casas. If they bring in Vlad, what happens to Triston? Do they then move Casas to DH and everyone else kind of stays where they are because it's assuming they don't have Bregman and they would keep guys like Devers in the spots that they're in, like having him play third base still and then kind of keeping Story at shortstop with a second baseman who could be Vaughn Grissom, it could be Christian Campbell, who really knows. But do they move Casas to DH at that point? Or do they try to trade Casas because they don't really need him anymore because they have their everyday first baseman in Vlad and they feel like that's the future? So it doesn't make sense to keep Casas. That's where they really have to start thinking about that too, because also this is contingent on if they could find a trade partner for Masataka Yoshida, because Masataka Yoshida's contract is something that is serving as a bit of an inconvenience to the Red Sox right now because of how much money they're spending on him and the fact that he is a player who has not shown the ability to play good defense. And his opportunities at the plate, some have been very good, others have been not so good. So do you really want to spend all that money on him and rely on him to be a regular DH when he hasn't been able to show a crazy amount of consistency there. So they would have to try to find a trade partner for him to make room for that more everyday regular DH in order to make all of this happen. So it is contingent on a lot of different factors, which is why, as much as Vlad could say, I want to play in Boston, that doesn't really matter unless the Red Sox are 100% committed to saying, yes, this is our guy. We want him on this Boston Red Sox team moving forward. And he is a guy that we feel will be able to contribute to our organization down the road. And I don't feel confident that John Henry and company would justify that and say, okay, we'll go pay Vlad the money when we have Tristan Casas. And that's the other thing with Casas is we still don't know what he's going to be because he's still so early on in his career. This kid has the potential to be a 40 home run hitter in his career, but we don't know yet whether he's going to get there or not. And the same thing goes for Vlad. You don't know if he's going to start to regress or not over the course of the rest of his career. Lots of things are risks, which is why being in a Major League Baseball front office is so challenging, and I don't think I could ever do it. But you have to take these risks if you want to improve your baseball team. So the question for the Red Sox is going to be, do we trust the elevation that Casas is showing? Has he shown the development to where he could turn into a very special player? Because if he turns into a very special player, then why would you want to replace him at first base when he's so young right now and he still has a ton left in the tank, presumably? So there's a lot of different things that the Red Sox would have to think about here when it comes to this Vlad situation. But to me, there's no doubt that he would make the Red Sox a better baseball team, even right now, if they were to go and sign him right now. That's not the question. It's just there's a lot of moving parts that would have to come with it if they were to bring in Vlad. Do I realistically think it's going to happen? No, because the Red Sox are the Red Sox and don't seem to want to spend that kind of money. But we've been wrong before and they've surprised us. So we'll see if they decide to invest that kind of money on him come next offseason if he does hit free agency. But do not trade for him because that absolutely does not make sense. Coming up, speaking of trades, a player who has been rumored to be in trade conversations with the Boston Red Sox. Is that something that realistically could happen? Well, his former teammate spoke out on it, so I'm going to be discussing that next. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for. And Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. Plus, with their goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. There is not much worse than paying for things that you didn't even know you were paying for. So if you want to try to prevent that moving forward, I promise you Rocket Money is an absolute lifesaver. So 100% invest in that service today. Are the Boston Red Sox going to invest in more players this offseason? That is a question that still remains to be answered. And so far, the Red Sox have improved their baseball team. They are objectively a better baseball team going into 2025 than they were in 2024 because they have a better pitching staff. That just is what it is. And I applaud Craig Breslow for making it work and trying to make this team better, despite John Henry's lack of desire, seemingly, to want to spend the kind of money it could take to get certain players. in a Boston Red Sox uniform, one of those players being Alex Bregman. Now, obviously, when it comes to the Alex Bregman situation, the Red Sox have also been associated with Nolan Arenado and a potential trade for him. So if the Red Sox were to trade for Arenado, they obviously don't need Alex Bregman. They wouldn't have anywhere to play him. But the question then becomes, if they were to trade for Nolan Arenado, are they sold on moving Rafael Devers off of third base? Or would they try to move Arenado? Because Arenado, to me, isn't as movable in the infield and as flexible as Alex Bregman is. I feel like he's a one position kind of guy and might struggle to switch to another one in Boston. And I feel like if he plays his main position, he would succeed a lot more at this point in his career. But the question then becomes, do they move Devers to DH? And then again, what do they do with Yoshida? He's kind of the obstacle here that keeps coming up a lot in conversation when it comes to players who are preventing certain things from happening, because he's just kind of there and doesn't provide a crazy amount of value. So the Red Sox are going to have to try to do something about that if they want to make these types of moves happen. Nolan Arenado, to me, is somebody who I'm sure would succeed in Boston. But the question is, what would the price be? I don't believe, according to what I'm hearing, that the price the Red Sox would have to pay would be as steep as you might think. Obviously, he's a former all-star player. He has a proven track record of being a successful player in Major League Baseball. So some might think that he would be somebody who the Red Sox would have to pay a steep price for. But as of right now, I'm hearing that the Cardinals are really just trying to dump that contract and they don't really want to fulfill the rest of his contract. So in that case, they aren't as picky about the type of package that they get for him. They just seem like they have a big desire to essentially ship him out so that they don't have to take on the rest of his contract. The Red Sox have been involved in trade rumors for him throughout the offseason. And he has a no trade clause, but he blocked a deal that would have sent him to the Astros. And he said that he would go to Boston. So it seems like Boston is where he wants to go. And Trevor Story, his former teammate, being a member of the Boston Red Sox now, could be a big reason why he wants to go to Boston. And Story actually spoke on this whole situation. And he said, obviously, that seems like a cool idea, and we would love that. I think he would thrive in Boston, just given his intensity, his love for the game, his passion for the game. He's a superstar, man. I don't think we're turning down anybody that wants to play in Boston and wants to do it. Obviously a cool idea, but a lot of things need to happen for that. So he likes the idea of Arenado playing in Boston. He thinks he has the attitude for it, and he's the type of guy who the Red Sox would really embrace here. But with the Red Sox, working out the trade compensation might end up being the biggest obstacle in all of this, because he's 33 years old and has 3 years left on his deal and $74 million. So in order for the Red Sox to make the trade, it might be contingent on the Cardinals swallowing some of his salary, which I don't know that they would be willing to do. But if they really want to get rid of him, I'm sure they would much rather pay some of his salary than all of it and still having him in St. Louis. So what could happen is the Red Sox could trade for him and have the Cardinals take on some of his salary, but the Red Sox take on a chunk of it. And hopefully the Red Sox wouldn't have to give up anybody of heavy value, because Tristan Casas's name continues to go around when it comes to these rumors of trading for guys. And I don't love that. I don't like the idea of Tristan Casas being shipped out, especially for a guy like Nolan Arenado. I don't think that's worth it. And Arenado defensively would certainly give the Red Sox a boost in the infield, but his bat, we would need to make sure, is going to be consistent and be effective in order for him to be somebody that Red Sox fans can be happy about here in Boston. And what happens if they trade Casas, who could be their first baseman of the future, for Arenado? And then we're sitting here saying, well, Arenado isn't really working out this year, so what did we get rid of Casas for? Which would be a valid point to make if that were to be the case. But The Tristan Casas trade rumors, I do feel like at this point are more rumors than anything else. I think the Red Sox feel confident in him as the first baseman, and they feel like he's a guy who's going to contribute to the team. Now, obviously, the Vlad situation puts a bit of a wrench in that, but I don't think the Red Sox are at the point where they would be willing to trade Casas for Arenado. But with Nolan Arenado, he, again, is on the older side. So you are taking a risk by bringing him in. But the positive is that he only has a few years left on his deal. So that to me is something that the Red Sox might be more willing to commit to because of the fact that in their eyes, they're saying, all right, well, we can commit to a few years of Arenado more so than 6 or 7 years of Alex Bregman or even 5 years of Alex Bregman because we have some prospects in this system who are going to come up and contribute to this team. And then we could always move Devers back to third base. So the Red Sox could do that if that were to be the case, move him back to third base after Arenado's deal is up. So I could see them pulling the trigger on that. And if Trevor Story voicing his opinion serves as any value to the Red Sox, then I could see them being a little bit more urgent in pushing for it. Obviously, Story sees the value that Arenado could bring to Boston. 8-time All-Star who would bring right-handed power to the Red Sox lefty-dominant lineup. And despite not being in the prime of his career anymore, playing at Fenway Park could rejuvenate him after he hit 272 with 16 home runs and 71 RBIs last season. He's also a 10-time Gold Glove winner. So like I mentioned, he would be a major upgrade defensively. And he could help solidify that left side of the infield. So for Story, though, what Arenado can provide the Red Sox goes beyond what he can do on the field, too, because he continued to speak about his off-the-field contributions. He said, Nolan is one of my best friends, and obviously when you hear that type of speculation, you can get excited about it a little bit. I just know the type of player that he is, the intensity that he brings, just the work ethic that he can provide from a leadership standpoint, too. He's one of the guys that I learned from. So not only do you have everything he brings on the field in terms of his high-level defense and his hopefully rejuvenated bat that could thrive at Fenway, but he could also serve as a great leader and mentor to some of the younger guys. And I know I mentioned the leadership and mentorship aspect a lot, but that does make a difference. And I keep going back to Justin Turner as an example of this. Look at Justin Turner, somebody who came to the Boston Red Sox and served as a great leader for guys like Tristan Casas and really helped Casas grow into himself in the early stages of his career in that first season. And being able to learn from Justin Turner helped Casas a lot to be able to get on track to where he's trying to go. And when you bring in a guy like that, his off the field presence often outweighs what he does on the field because he could keep the clubhouse united, keep a good camaraderie going, which is something that Justin Turner did. And you had Red Sox players who were calling Justin Turner the best clubhouse leader that the team has ever had. And that's a powerful statement. If you can get Nolan Arenado in there who understands the ups and downs of a career, who understands what it's like to really have to push yourself to your highest potential, to understand how to motivate yourself and get through the hard days. Having somebody like that could help keep players on track behind the scenes, and it makes a difference in ways that we as fans don't even see. So there's definitely some pros to bringing Nolan Arenado here. I am absolutely not opposed to doing that. I just don't want to see the return be too steep because, again, he is on the older side. So he might not be as productive as we've seen from him in other aspects of his career and other years in the past. So hopefully if the Red Sox do decide that they're going to bring him in, they don't have to or are not expected to give up a crazy amount. And hopefully the Cardinals are willing to just say, okay, yeah, we'd rather just pay some of his salary if you take on the majority of it. So we'll have to see what happens with that. And if those rumors come to fruition about Nolan Arenado being a member of the Boston Red Sox in 2025. And coming up Former Red Sox outfielder Alex Verdugo has been mentioned over the last couple of days and is drawing interest from several teams this offseason now. Why the Red Sox are better off without him? That's next. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. One of my favorite memories was attending a concert last year. The energy and excitement were unforgettable. Now, Game Time has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, I was looking for tickets to an upcoming game using the Game Time app. With Game Time Picks, I found amazing deals and could even see the view from my seat before buying. The super deal was particularly impressive, offering great seats at unbeatable prices. Plus, the app's all-in pricing shows the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Game Time has you covered 100% for all of your ticketing needs. I use it all the time now. I literally don't use any other ticketing services. So I highly recommend it if you're looking to save some money on tickets for any event these days. As the Boston Red Sox look ahead to their 2025 season, we can also look back at some of the players who played in Boston over the last few years. And one of those players was Alex Verdugo, whose name has been sprinkled around over the last couple days because he is drawing interest in some teams this offseason, despite his failure to find his stride in the Bronx last year after the Red Sox traded him to the Yankees. He does play good defense. That was the biggest thing that he brought to the Boston Red Sox in his time here, but he never did anything major offensively, and it was actually pretty seemingly fitting to his blink of an eye run with the Yankees that his swing and miss ended the 2024 World Series, and I also thought it was kind of funny. But his name has emerged in free agent talks, especially among teams like the Blue Jays, Mets, and Pirates, with the Pirates being believed to be the favorite right now as they are making a big push for him. He didn't perform like a starting outfielder hungry for a payday this past year, so perhaps settling for a one-year deal with hopes of a breakout is the right move for him. A team should not commit a lot of money or time to him, but a one-year deal in like a prove-it year type of thing could be good. Now, the reason I bring up Alex Verdugo is because this goes back to the Red Sox building for the future, and now they are much better off without Verdugo in their outfield, and the fact that they traded him last year and they were able to get a couple decent pitching prospects in return, including a guy named Richard Fitz, who impressed in his short stint in the majors this past year, so he's somebody to look out for. That could be good for the Boston Red Sox moving forward. And eventually it would not have made sense for them to even have Verdugo. So the fact that they were able to get something for him and not just let him walk in free agency was huge. And now the Red Sox have an outfield where they're looking like they could have 3 Gold Glovers in that area in 2025. The last time they had 2 Gold Glove outfielders was in 2018 when Mookie Betts and JBJ were selected. They also had 2 in 1978 and 1979 when Dwight Evans and Fred Lynn were patrolling right field and center field, respectively. And before that, it was Reggie Smith and Carl Yastrzemski in 1968. But how about 3 outfielders winning Gold Gloves? No team has done that since the recognition started in 1957. So that would be pretty cool. But the 2025 Red Sox do have a legitimate chance at that. It's not this far-fetched thing. With Jarren Duran in left field, Rafaela in center, and Wilyer Abreu in right, the Red Sox have 3 premium defenders. I mean, Wilyer Abreu was the Gold Glove winner last season, and Duran was a finalist in center field. Ceddanne Rafaela had 12 defensive runs saved in center, despite playing more innings at shortstop in place of the injured Trevor Story. So with Story healthy and Tyler O'Neill having signed with the Orioles, the Red Sox could line up with Duran, Rafaela, and Abreu from left to right. And they have mentioned that the hope is to use Rafaela in center field as often as possible this upcoming season to take the most advantage of his defensive skills, which are very, very good. Ceddanne has shown a JBJ-like ability to track down balls hit to the deepest parts of the ballpark. And his infield skills made him effective at snagging line drives that looked sure to find the grass. And he also had a strong arm that led to 5 outfield assists. His issue, though, was at the plate. He was signed to an 8-year, $50 million extension in April, but hit just 246 with a 664 OPS over 152 games. He did manage 43 extra base hits because he does have the speed to contribute a lot in that regard, but he struck out 151 times. So his plate discipline still definitely needs a lot of work, but from a defensive standpoint, he could be great in that outfield. Duran was an all-star and finished 8th in MVP voting. His 83 extra base hits fueled an 834 OPS, and he led the majors in doubles with 48, and he was also tied for the lead in triples with 14, as well as stealing 34 bases. He was the most valuable player on the team by a wide margin. It really was not close. Most consistent player on the team, and he could do the most, was the most versatile. His defense was even more of a revelation because he had 23 defensive runs saved, which was a remarkable turnaround after being minus 18 from 2021 to 2023. So he showed a ton of growth defensively. Clearly, that was the area of his game that he worked on the most prior to the 2024 season. So that is very promising. And then you have Abreu, who was in the middle of the group offensively, hitting 253 with a 781 OPS. And he does need to improve against lefties, but defensively, he handled Fenway's expansive right field with ease. He learned to play balls down the line and was able to hold runners at first base thanks to a very strong arm. The best Red Sox teams have traditionally had good right fielders, and Abreu could be part of that legacy. So it's very exciting to think about the future of the Red Sox outfield because they do also have Rob Refsnyder, who's a veteran right-handed hitter who absolutely pounds lefties, and he's the primary outfield backup. Then you also have Masataka Yoshida, who would like to be in the outfield, but only played 1 inning on defense last season because he is just not a good defender. He's hoping to change that a little bit this year, but I doubt it. I still think the Red Sox keep him primarily at DH. Then the biggest question is how prized prospect Roman Anthony fits into the lineup once he's ready, because the 20-year-old reached AAA Worcester last season and hit 384 with a 983 OPS over 35 games. If he starts the season back in the minors, it may not be for that long. He primarily has been a center fielder, but can also play the corners. And once he's deemed ready for the majors, the Red Sox will have to adjust. So they have a lot of depth in the outfield because also prospect Christian Campbell has started 31 games in the outfield during his minor league career against 86 starts in the infield. Where he ultimately fits best long-term is uncertain right now. It kind of depends on the Red Sox roster makeup, but it's certainly possible that he could play some outfield for the Red Sox too. So there are a lot of outfield potentials right now because they also have more prospects in Miguel Blaze and Joe Stingson Garcia that have bright futures as well. So there are a ton of options for them in the future. So that's something they're going to have to figure out moving forward is where these guys all fit in. But the Red Sox outfield is clearly in a much better spot now than it was when Alex Verdugo was here. Again, yes, he did play good defense, but the offensive upside that these guys provide with especially Duran and then also even Abreu with the season he had at the plate. If Rafaela can grow a little bit more at the plate, we can sit here and say the Red Sox have a much better outfield than they had in the last couple seasons. So I'm hoping that things go well for these guys and the Red Sox have an outfield that they're proud of and that these guys continue to grow and continue to develop. And who knows, maybe we'll see those names like Roman Anthony and Christian Campbell cross our TVs in the Red Sox lineup coming into 2025 at some point during the season. So that would be very exciting, but we will just have to wait and see. I do appreciate you making Locked On Red Sox your first listen today. Next, be sure to tune in to Locked On MLB with host Paul Sullivan, aka Sully, who will keep you up to date on all things going on with the Boston Red Sox and other teams across Major League Baseball. It's more of a general baseball show. So if you want to stay caught up to date on everything going on and less detailed on just the Red Sox, but more just generally across the league, find his show on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. It's a great show. Sully has a ton of energy. I promise you'll really enjoy it. As always, keep the faith. Go Red Sox, and I will catch you on the flip side.